before we jump right into the content, I wanted to give an overview of the course itself. We divided it up into 7 stages or 7 sections. The first section is the Bootstrap map. And the Bootstrap map is really our anchor point. We'll always come back to the map, and this gives us the orientation for the entire Bootstrap process from beginning to end. And so the map is really putting everything into context. What are those stages that we're doing? What are we focused on in each stage? What are the actions we're taking? And what are the elements that we have to keep worrying about and dealing with in each of those stages? So that's the Bootstrap map, and we'll spend some time on that. Then second through 6, we'll actually go and focus on each of the stages. So we'll start off with pre-ideation, before a bootstrapper even thinks about becoming a bootstrapper. Ideation, when the bootstrapper is trying to work on that but not doing bootstrapping full time. Valley of death, when the bootstrapper is doing it full time but the organization isn't quite self-sustainable yet. And then the growth phase, when the organization becomes sustainable and starts growing. And then finally the re-bootstrap stage. And so those are the 5 sections that will take us through all of the different stages. And then we'll finally conclude with some parting thoughts and bring it all back and what we ought to do next. So that's the course, and we'll jump right into the map in a second. Right, so here we are at the Bootstrap map. Now, what you can see in this map is that we've really laid out all the stages in order of time. So what we've got on the x-axis of the map is time, and time is progressing. Now, it's very important to note that we aren't actually putting any actual specific timelines on this time. The time segments aren't precise or specific in any way. Bootstrappers may linger in each of these stages for quite a while, and it takes what it takes, and that's kind of one of the key insights on bootstrapping. So while it's a timeline, the x-axis represents time, it's not specific chunks of time. Secondly, on the time piece, you may go forward and you may also go backwards. Sometimes a bootstrapper gets excited, they think they're ready, they go to the valley of death and run out of resources or just can't keep going, or something happens, something in their family happens, and they just got to stop or put the bootstrapping back on pause, go back into ideation, take a job, whatever it might be. And so let's not also think about this time factor as being linear, even though we are assuming left to right is this progress. The bootstrapper might go back and forth depending on where they're at and what they might have to do in their own situation. Now the y-axis, what we've got there, are the different elements that you as the bootstrapper have to kind of worry about and think about. And so the first line is that all-important capital line. And that's what is going on with the capital and what's the source of capital that is powering the bootstrapper initially and eventually the bootstrap itself. The second line is about the bootstrapper, the founding team, and what is going on with their journey. And what you'll notice is each of these lines progresses and continues to progress as the venture goes on. But the good news is that you don't have to actually worry about all the different pieces all at the same time. So the third line is the product line. And what you notice is the product line only begins in the ideation stage, whereas the bootstrapper line begins in the pre-ideation stage. So then the product line continues, and it starts off with a demo and then evolves and continues to evolve. Then we have the customer line, and finally the organization line. So the customer is simply, who is the customer? And the customer only begins in the valley of death. And then finally the organization. And of course, now looking at the organization, you say, well, does that really only begin in growth? Don't I have an organization back in the ideation stage when it's just me? Yes, you do. But the primary focus of your venture is not going to be on your organization until you get into this growth phase. And that's the key insight here that we're seeing, is that all these pieces start to get instantiated at a particular moment. And that's what your right action ends up being, is what am I going to do at that particular moment. So then we get to the interior of the map, and we see what the actual actions are that we're taking. So in pre-ideation, the key step is awaken. What's happening is internally, the bootstrapper is getting awakened to the possibility that they can be a bootstrapper, that they can take their passions and their talents and do something with them. Now, that's internal, in other words. That's the bootstrapper working on him or herself. Whereas in ideation, the action is demo. And what's going on with the demo? Well, you're driving to some specific instantiation of something in the world that you're going to go and produce. You're going to save the world by selling it plastic recyclable cups. And that's the demo piece. And again, the focus now, instead of being on the bootstrapper, even though as a bootstrapper your journey continues to evolve in this stage and you become better and get better, you're now focusing your attention away from you to this thing, this product. Not the organization, but the product or service that you want to offer. Then we go to the valley of death stage. Our focus shifts away from the product and onto this other entity called the customer. And so now our core action is sell. We're trying to take what we've got from the previous stage, our demo, offer it to customers and see if someone wants it. And it solves a problem that they actually have. So the focus of the valley of death is sell. Now again, the product doesn't stop. The product is going to continue to evolve. Version 1, version 2, 1.5, whatever those versions are. And similarly, the bootstrapper's journey continues to evolve as well. And the complexities of that, of the nuances of that now become more complex. And then finally in the growth stage, build. And specifically we're talking about building the organization, the systems and the processes and the people and structures that are going to enable the business that's now actually emerged at this point. And so that's the focus of the growth stage, is build. And the focus of the rebootstrap stage is really to get right back into pre-ideation, back into ideation really, and start that process all over again.